He loses his fight for life. But what is his legacy when it comes to spinal cord research?
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. The news that Christopher Reeve had died of heart failure was like hearing of a death in the family. He was that familiar to America, first as a movie star, then as a quadriplegic, and finally as a tireless spirit, an advocate for more research, more hope for the millions who shared his broken condition and daily struggle just to breathe. He died Sunday of cardiac arrest after becoming infected from a pressure wound. That's a common condition in spinal cord cases. We're going to begin tonight with NBC's Bob Falk.
As Superman, he could bend steel with his bare hands. As Christopher Reeve, he died, age 52, from a heart attack during treatment for an infection related to his paralysis.
Say hello to Clark Kent.
26 years ago, he dazzled moviegoers as mild-mannered Clark Kent transformed, who fights the never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. When he wasn't busy, that is, rescuing Lois Lane.
I've got you.
17 years later, May 1995, at an equestrian show in Virginia, he broke America's heart when his horse balked, throwing Reeve and breaking his neck. The man with everything, the avid skier, diver, and pilot, left quadriplegic, able to move only his head.
Some people say that the longer you go, the better it gets, the more you get used to it. I'm actually finding the opposite is true.
He was overwhelmed, admitted in his unflinching memoir, Contemplating Suicide. Instead, Christopher Reeve decided, quote, "I've got to be a person, not a patient."
Giving up is unacceptable.
Slowly, the comic book hero became a super crusader, a one-man publicity and lobbying machine for spinal cord research.
Who are we if we don't use our best efforts and best available technology to do something?
For him, that also meant directing and acting again. At the 1996 Oscars, he wowed onlookers, just as he did at that year's Democratic National Convention in Chicago.
America does not let its needy citizens fend for themselves.
Christopher Reeve transformed again, action hero into inspiration.
Chris, what do you say? Let's make a date. We'll do this interview again in 10 years. Only then we'll walk down the beach together.
That's absolutely doable. I'll see you there.
Christopher Reeve, who became a real Superman when he could no longer fly. Bob Faw, NBC News, Washington.
We'll have more on Chris Reeve's legacy of encouraging research for a cure for spinal cord injuries a little later here on NBC Nightly News tonight. Presidential candidate John Kerry had a long friendship with Christopher Reeve, which he mentioned in Friday night's debate. The subject was stem cell research, and as NBC's Carl Quintanilla tells us tonight, Reeve's death puts a spotlight on that already heated debate.
John Kerry today mixing politics with the personal, upstaging his planned remarks on energy with a eulogy to Christopher Reeve.
Chris was a beautiful, hopeful person, full of zest for life. And in part, because of his work, one day people will walk again.
Reeve's death has unusual political consequences for Kerry's campaign. The two men were friends for 15 years.
Dependent, again, on how research progresses.
Lately, Reeve served as an unofficial advisor on stem cell research.
Chris Reeve is a friend of mine.
And left Kerry a phone message just last weekend after watching Friday's debate.
The excitement in his voice was just really palpable. And he was so thrilled about where the discussion of stem cell research had come to.
Kerry's challenge? How to avoid appearing insensitive while still emphasizing what he believes is one of his strongest issues, one area where Kerry hasn't been accused of flip-flopping.
It was a sad but appropriate way to measure the progress in spinal cord research. Since he was first injured 9 years ago, Reeve and others in similar condition have been driven by a common goal: to walk again. Is that possible? It is a daunting prospect, but the progress so far is astonishing. Here's NBC's Robert Bazell.
Hands on and up.
Allison Kessler is a member of Harvard's rowing team, even though her legs were paralyzed in a skiing accident 3 years ago.
And push.
She and many people with spinal cord injuries greatly admired Christopher Reeve's activism.
He could have easily, after he got hurt, just faded into the shadows.
Allison's father is a scientist studying spinal cord injuries, and he too sees enormous influence from Reeve.
He just had exerted a remarkably positive force for spinal cord research.
You need my head back a little bit more?
Reeve's injury was the worst possible, close to the neck, a constant threat to his survival. Part of his legacy is that he never gave up.
Let's do 10 more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wise Young of Rutgers was one of his doctors.
Around the 5th year, he called me, and he was excited about the fact that he was moving his left index finger. And then he was standing in a swimming pool, and he could lift 5-pound weights with his legs.
But more than anything else, Reeve used his celebrity, money, intelligence, and amazing determination to motivate scientists to believe that spinal cord injury could be overcome. Recent experiments at the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis used injections of nerve cells and hormones to make rats with spinal injuries walk again. Scientists say human trials could start soon.
He actually allowed us or encouraged us to use the word cure.
That quest for a cure led Reeve to push for more research with embryonic stem cells.
Our scientists are on the threshold of major breakthroughs.
Whatever leads to a cure, Allison Kessler and many others believe Christopher Reeve will deserve much of the credit.
There you go.
Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
That's nightly news for this Monday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.